All right, let's get into this bad boy and let's make it a quick one because it deserves to be. Kriega Bundle. Welcome back to the library, everybody. Welcome to the channel. I'm Tennessee Fats, and I'm coming to you from here today because, well, I want to take some time and have a quick conversation about the second story arc that came out of Titan Comics' Conan the Barbarian series. Now, this isn't going to be a full review because really, I don't want to ruin this one for you guys, and I don't want to be throwing out the spoilers and say, well, this is what happens at the end, because I think you're going to enjoy reading this one all on your own. What I am going to do today is I'm going to talk about some of the items that I noticed within the story and that are being built on by the creative team here that are really drawing to my attention. And they're making me go, ooh, wait a minute, what are we doing here? So as a Robert E. Howard fan and as a Conan the Barbarian fan, and really as somebody else's fan, I'm not going to say who, there are some items in here you're going to want to pay some attention to for those of you who haven't read this yet. And if you have read it and you've sort of glossed over these things, let's take a moment here to step back and take a look at these items and dive a little deeper. The final thing I'm going to do is I am going to throw out a spoiler here. There's a preface story that you're going to want to read before you get into this. And if you don't want to know that, sorry, but that's what we're going to get into. All right. Let's first get into the preface stuff. Then we'll get into sort of some of the items that I went, whoa! And then at the end, we'll do a regular wrap up. Everybody, let's get into the books. All right, let's talk preface stuff now. So this is, okay, nobody's around, right? It's just those of us who have read the story, right? I'll assume that's the case. Okay, here's the deal, guys. Here's the skitty. What is this story? Let's just step back for a second, say 10,000 feet in the air, when you're looking down, what is this story? Well, I'll tell you, in my mind, I broke it up into 3 different themes, okay? First of all, you got a classic D&D dungeon crawl happening here. Classic D&D dungeon crawl. And it's even inclusive of level draining ghosts. I mean, come on, like, you can't get any better than that. Take that, mash it up with some sort of, Mini Cooper driving Italian job type break-in type thing, and then add in the whole thing, basically falling down. You know the movie Falling Down? That psychological thing where you've got the character who's dealing with the literal lowest point in his life. Yeah, take those 3 things, mash them together, stick them in a blender, pour it out into a smoothie, and then drink her up, because that's the story you got here. I loved it. We'll get a little bit more into that later, but for now, let's talk preface material. Really what you need to do to enjoy this is you need to step back. You need to step back, you need to go back to the old Robert E. Howard stuff. Now, I'm not saying you have to, but I'm honestly saying to add the extra value, let's talk about a particular Robert E. Howard story that's actually my favorite Robert E. Howard story, Queen of the Black Coast. Queen of the Black Coast was written, well, about 100 years ago now, and I gotta tell you, it's probably one of the best Robert E. Howard Conan stories I've ever read. And I've read them all now. Actually, I have read them all? I have read them all. Yeah, I have. I've read all of them now. And this is literally my favorite one. Now, granted, there's some writing nuances to it where you go on and you go, well, that was a little chunky. And you can sit here and nitpick all day long. But the bottom line was, Robert E. Howard was writing the story of a man discovering the next stage of his life. He was writing a story of a man discovering basically almost the antithesis of himself, and then mirroring that against himself, and then watching the demise of that very aspect of himself that he's grown to love. And that aspect obviously is Belet or Bellet. The interesting thing about this Bellet character is everybody has had a Bellet in their life. At the end of the day, all of us have had that metaphorically in our lives. And if you haven't had it in your lives, I really envy you, because the day you actually get to go through that experience and you get to experience the Belet of your life, oh my God, set that aside. That's Tennessee Fats Old Man Ramble. We'll get back to the point here. It's a fantastic story wherein Conan meets Belet, the pirate queen. They go off, they fall in love, and their love burns with such a passion that literally, even though she dies, she's there at the end to save his life because she simply cannot move on. He can't move on. And when Robert E. Howard wrote that, it was a very truncated story. This is how it ended, and we move on. I guess at the time, we really weren't into the whole suffering and the mental anguish that came with characters with these sorts of life events. But you need to know that to really understand the depths of the suffering that the Conan character is going through in this story. In this story, there's an overarching adventure, and the overarching adventure is beautifully written and it's well done. But that's all put on top of an overlay of the suffering of Conan as he's dealing with this loss. This is still fresh in his life, and he really can't get past it. The beginning of every issue actually starts with a flashback where Conan is being haunted by images of the very thing that's tearing him apart inside. He's literally trying to drink himself to death. He's trying to go into oblivion, so there is no Conan left. Every day would just be a monotonous task of doing whatever he has to do to get more booze, to just get up the next day and just forget all of it. It's a beautiful story that Robert E. Howard originally wrote, but you need to understand the level of that character depth so that when you're reading this story, you can say, oh my God, and it just hits home so much harder. You take that knife, you literally stab it into your chest, twist, pull out your heart, throw it on the ground, stomp on it 6 or 7 times, pick it back up, put it back in, sew it up, and then you pay somebody else to come up from behind, stab you in the back, pull your heart back out, throw it on the ground, and stomp on it another 6 times. It is a beautiful thing. It's heart-wrenching when you're reading this and you understand the context of what Conan was going through. At the same time, all this crap is going on with this crazy dungeon crawl with level creating ghosts and Mini Cooper driving. It's insane. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But if you really want that depth, make sure you go back and read that preface material. Queen of the Black Coast. Trust me, you will thank me for it later. Okay, now, into the actual interesting things that actually popped up in here where I thought they're authors. Whoa, what are they? Yeah, let's get into that, shall we? Okay, it's egghead time. I'm pretty good at this stuff because, well, I come from a whole family of eggheads, so trust me, this is a thing. This is take that little OCD Tennessee Fats in the back of my head. Take him, make him really, really, really annoying. Like, so much so annoying that it's way out here past. Here, I'm going to go off screen just to show how far past the levels of annoying. Oh my God, he's way back over here. Yeah, he's that level of annoying with the tiny little minutiae and the detail that he draws into these things. But these are the things that I wanted to point out to you because 2 of these things just made me go, ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, so we talked preface, okay? We talked about Baalat and we talked about the Queen of the Black Coast. You do want to read that. I want to talk about something else here, which is another Robert E. Howard creation. And it's a theme that pops up repeatedly in a lot of the material that I've been finding myself reading that's not really Conan the Barbarian specific. And when you read the editorial comments that are in the back of the first story arc issues, and the essays, not editorial comments, I will correct that, the essays included in the back of the first series of issues, and when we head into this story, there's something called the Black Stone. Now, many of you can just go on the Wikipedia there, and you can go look up the Black Stone and Robert E. Howard, and you'll find a bunch of nuances within there. But really, the Black Stone was a concept for Robert E. Howard of something that, how would I put this politely, predates everything. It's a tool, and it's a vehicle within a couple of Robert E. Howard's non-Conan stories, where at times it's depicted as a sacrificial altar being used by subterranean, well, basically almost like Morlocks. Not the Eloi, the Morlocks. Kind of like that, where they're sacrificing people on it. People like the Eloi. Look at that metaphor I just went with there. Anywho, other times it's a giant pillar of stone sticking out of the ground that people would be sacrificed in front of, or they'd be tied to and flayed. It's a vehicle by which evil just continues to permeate through time. And it's a vehicle that's really written into a lot of Robert E. Howard's stories that's never really explained, but it's left as a purposeful mystery. And in story arc number 1, and I think we can go past this now and we can talk about this particular spoiler, there is a Black Stone. And the way it's actually drawn in there, it's made to look almost like a partially completed statue that's just standing. And Brule, the Spear Slayer of all people, is the one that destroys it, and which is beautiful. And we'll talk about that in a second. But it's there almost filling in that monolith type role. No, it's basically taking people and driving them insane. But as we go a little bit further into this story, once again, we see the Black Stone making an appearance. And this is a really interesting aspect here because of this particular stone's appearance and because of story arc number 1 occurring so much earlier in Conan's life, you actually get a key piece of character growth. The Black Stone is horrifying. Let's just face facts. It's absolutely horrifying. It's a terrifying thing. I would hope that if it is a real thing, I never run into it in my real life because I have enough to fear in the real world. I don't need to fear this particular thing. Conan ran into this thing. He knows what it is. He's seen the visions. And when they do their whole, Italian job type theft thing, within that, Conan suddenly realizes, I'm sorry, we're stealing a piece of the what? And I'm going to show a panel here. I'm going to put it up to the side over here. And there's a couple things that I want to talk about within this particular panel. You're going to say to me, Tennessee Fats, it's just Conan's face, and why does he look afraid? I'll tell you why. Because of the actual black stone, because of Conan's prior experiences with it, and because of my own digging into what a black stone is and what it means to Robert E. Howard originally, Conan is terrified of this thing. Like, we're talking about Conan the Barbarian. This is big, bulky, I'm going to go stabby and kill the crap out of things guy. And you'll see the verbiage here is, no, don't touch it. And he's stammering. He's so scared. He knows what this is. He's seen this before. It's the black stone. He had that whole experience with this and the material like it in story arc number 1. And here it is haunting him later. And it's not just haunting him later, it's haunting him later while he's dealing with such a psychological piece of trauma that emotionally he's weakened, he's frayed. He's take that ogre of layers of onion and just take a cheese grater to the side of it, fray it all out so that it's just hairy, covered with all sorts of pain. Everything is a painful touch point. And Conan is now running into this thing again. It's horrifying for him that he's actually seeing this thing. And that's how powerful the black stone is. So the writers here, i.e. Jim Zub, when he wrote this is the beautiful thing about Jim Zub knowing so much about D&D and knowing so much about Conan and Robert E. Howard, is he's able to pull this old Robert E. Howard mythos that's really not even Conan specific and draw it into this, which is fantastic. I love the way that we did that particular aspect and drew it in there, because now you've got this non-Conan Robert E. Howard piece of IP that's now coming back into importance because it's being drawn into the world building that they're doing with this new Titan series, which I thought was fantastic. And it's funny because in the first one, giant monolith thing, Brule smashes it and obviously blows to a million pieces. And then here we are stealing this tiny little, don't touch that, like horrifying. And I won't even get into what happens there. You can go read it your darn self, okay? But that is the first thing where I said, okay, that's some major Robert E. Howard item that we're dropping in here, and that's really, really well done. That's number 1. Second thing that I really want to talk to here, and this is one of those key items that sort of draws in here that makes you go, what? Okay, and this is where we're going to get a little bit into the spoilers here, okay? And for those of you who really don't want to know what's going on here behind the veil, you're probably going to want to, no, don't say it any chance. Let me go read my own. Okay, off you go. We'll see you in the next video, okay? Those of you who stuck around, Thulsa freaking Doom. Yeah, Thulsa Doom is now being brought in, but it's not Thulsa Doom directly. Now, bear in mind, we already had Thulsa Doom introduced in the first story arc. We know he's there, okay? He's a thing that's actually happening, but it's just a cult. He's referred to by us, and it's known that he's there, and he's part of what happened that caused that whole monstrosity. Thulsa Doom, by the way, goes all the way back to Kull time. We're talking pre-cataclysm here. And within this story, once again, this black stone is now being tied directly to Thulsa Doom. Now, Robert E. Howard never did that, at least not that I've found so far, but the writers and the creative team here are doing that. They're drawing the stone directly into Thulsa Doom. And you'll find out how it's drawn into Thulsa Doom if you read the series, but you probably do want to know something about Thulsa Doom to begin with. And to do that, what I would suggest you do, go back and read your Robert E. Howard Kull stories, okay? There's not a lot of Robert E. Howard development of the character of Thulsa Doom back in the day in his original material. But I think Marvel did a fairly good job of fleshing the character out when they had that and they had the opportunity to do it. Now, since then, Thulsa Doom has appeared in both Kull and in Conan. And, you know, he's gone across the generations, and clearly he's something that's out there doing his thing, right? We get it, okay, we get it. But drawing him in here really just as a subtle sub-point within the story, because honestly, at the end of the day, the whole problem could have been caused by anybody. It could have been caused by some sort of, I don't know, millennia-old crazy elephant magician. But it wasn't. It was caused by Thulsa Doom. Directly or indirectly, he's the actual underlying theme here. Now, what I think that's doing, and this is where we got to just sort of step back and pay attention. I think we're leading this along here. We haven't had Thulsa Doom mentioned in first story arc for no reason. We haven't had him mentioned in second story arc for no reason. Now, third story arc issue 1 is already out, okay? It's out there right now. I'm not going to go draw on that in here, but what I am going to say is, I suspect we're going to continue going down this road for a reason, because honestly, what we're doing is we're drawing in not only the Hyborian Age, but by constantly referencing Thulsa Doom, we're going back now, we're drawing in the Thurian Age. So watch for that. Honestly, I believe that this was actually driven that way all the way back to story. This is me going over here to story arc. I'm back in story arc number 1 now. Story arc number 1. This is me. Woo, Brule the Spear Slayer is over here. Thulsa Doom. Boom. Story arc number 2. Okay, Brule the Spear Slayer does make an appearance. Thulsa Doom reference. Black Stone. What's going to be going over here in story arc number 3? Who knows? We'll get there when we get there. All right, everybody. Those are the key sort of themes and underlying tones that sort of triggered to me, and I went, whoa, this was well done. I'd like to see where this goes further. All right, let's get into the old wrap up here. Tennessee Fats, should I buy this? What do I think of this? And what's your feedback, Tennessee Fats? Let's get into that. All right, let's get into the bajillion-dollar question here. Tennessee Fats, what did you think of this, and should I go buy this? Well, let's start with the first question. What did I think of this? Holy crap, this was good. And I'll tell you, I'm saying this again, because those of you who watched story arc number 1 review, I'll put the card up over here. What they did there was they gelled the writing and the art perfectly. Really, the gears meshed beautifully, and it was done in such a way that the written word within the comic was incredibly important, but it was only accentuated by the theme and the tone that was coming out of the art that matched it. It was a beautiful marriage of those two forms of how you're communicating a story. Story arc number 2 has done the same thing. We've changed artists in this one. You got Doug Braithwaite coming into this one. And Doug Braithwaite, I already showed you an image of that haggard, older looking Conan. The Conan's face is suffering. And I honestly believe that Doug Braithwaite in this one is the best artist to have actually depicted what we're doing here. This is a story of sword and sorcery, yes, but it's also a story of emotional growth and really dealing with the emotional damage that Conan has to go through. This isn't a happy-go-lucky Conan that's running around out there stabby-stabby having a good time. This is Conan that's really going to the lowest spiritual point in his life and trying to find a way back up. At the end of the whole story, he ends up taking the very weakness that was hurting him and that was causing his suffering to begin with and turned it into a strength, which is why he ended up achieving what he did at the end of the story. He literally took this, which was just haunting him and was driving him mad, and twisted it around to look at it in a different way so that it actually made him grow as a character. We saw Conan not only deal with fear, real fear, and you could see it in the expression of his face, but you also saw him emotionally grow, learning to live with his past and live with the suffering and become the next person, which is the person who's grown from that suffering. And story arc number 3 will build more on that, where we see this new developed character running through the rest of his life. Because Robert E. Howard really left that wide open. Honestly, you knew from the end of Queen of the Black Coast that this was something that Conan was going to carry for the rest of his natural life. He'd go through all the rest of his adventures, the road to king, becoming king, having his kids killed, not really killed, and then going on and sailing off into the sunset. And for the rest of his natural life, he's always going to be punishing himself because he blames himself for the death of the one woman he loved first. It's horrible tragedy that he carries with him. It's almost Greek tragedy level suffering that this character carries with it. And this story has allowed us to now see that's how he lived with it. Beautifully written, and the art just went into it with it, just gelled wonderfully. And I'd like to see the next story with Jim Zub writing and Doug Braithwaite to be another one of these where it's more of a psychological issue that Conan's dealing with on top of the overall story arc. Don't get me wrong, the overall story arc is beautiful. The renditions that's showing these monsters and the things, the level draining ghosts, I mean, ooh, it looks wonderful. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to show you the art. You got to see it yourself. But I will say they did a great job here and once again knocked it out of the park. Good job, Titan. Honestly, keep up the good work. I'm looking forward to seeing this and probably saying the exact same thing at the end of story arc number 3 because so far, you're 2 for 2. Well, everybody, that's our video for this week. I hope you enjoyed this one. For those of you who do want to stick around, because you know Tennessee Fats does like to stick, those Easter eggs in at the end of these videos, I got a doozy for you this time. Stick around until the end. Everybody, we'll see you in the next video. Have yourself a great day. How am I gonna get through? How am I gonna get through? All right, everybody, welcome back to the end of the video. Welcome to the Easter egg fun, and welcome to the point in time where you get to hear me ramble, completely unscripted, with no real idea. I just say, here's what I'm going to share, and we go. You never know what's going to come out of these things. Sometimes it could be something good. Sometimes it could be something really, really bad. You never know when this fool mouth of mine is just going to get me shot one of these days. Today I want to talk about comic books. Today, we already talked about comic books in the main video, and I tell you, shooting that video was an interesting one because I'm going to level with you guys. Let's sit back. Let's sit back and have a conversation about this. Let's just give you some space. I'm leaning back, setting the tone. And, here, you know, before I even get started, I'm going to have some of this cranberry mango made with 15% fruit juice. What's the rest if it's not fruit? I don't know. Hold on. Oh yeah, that's yeah. Got to get my sugar levels up because, you know, I don't even want to talk about what I'm doing with. Okay, here's where I'm at with comic books, and here's where this video was. This was an interesting one for me because I'll tell you, I want to be somewhat objective, and I want to be somewhat realistic about these things when I'm shooting them. And what happens is when you're shooting these things, you generally say, well, this is what I want to say, and you hit the high points in the back of your head. That's generally when little OCD Tennessee Fat sits back there. Just I'll typically write down a couple notes, and then we just go. And it's interesting because I've been enjoying this particular series so much. It seems like, I'm sure at times, that I'm just sitting here saying what I guess Titan would want to hear. But at the end of the time, I'm not really saying what Titan would want to hear. Because I'll tell you one thing, I'm really critical of Titan right now. And I think you all should be as well. And this comes to the comic book conversation, is apparently the distribution model is somewhat fractured. Let's just call it that. I wouldn't say it's broken, but it is fractured. And the evidence I have for this is because the books that I've been getting systemically have been having distribution defects. I'm seeing color rubs on them before they even hit the shop. If you actually go on to, is it Lone Star Comics, mycomicshop.com, and you look at, just take the time, googly this, and get on there and take a look at just Titan Comics and pull up the current series and look at the newer issues. One of the things you'll find is that they've got a disclaimer on it. They're saying, you know, these were distributed with manufacturer's defects on them. These are the best quality we got. Average on grade, somewhere around a very fine. That's not encouraging. And I'm hopeful that Titan will fix this. And I'm hopeful that we're going to see that resolved and that they'll get whatever this distribution issue is solved. I don't know what it is. I'm not in the business and I can't say. What I can say is the quality of the content within the books is fantastic. And I will continue to support that because I really do believe they're probably making one of the best Conan products I think I've read in a long time. I can think of very few better Conan comic products off the top of my head, just as I sit here talking about this. And the Savage Sword of Conan series that they come up with right now that is the magazine sized, I'd say it's good. I'm not 100% bought into it yet. I was waiting for a magazine format of Savage Sword to come out from Titan, and they did do it, and I do appreciate that, but I'll tell you, the first issue didn't leave me overwhelmed, didn't leave me underwhelmed, left me suitably impressed. I really did enjoy it, but I want to wait until I get some more issues of that under my belt before I actually say, you know what, this is going really well, this is going really poorly. Because I didn't have a sense of hype about that and excitement about it as I did with the Conan the Barbarian comic adaptation. And that's just a me issue. We'll see how that whole thing sorts itself out in the next couple. I think I just put in my pre-order for Savage Sword number 3 just last week. So it'll be coming out probably sometime this summer, and then I'll give you guys a video about what I thought about that. But this all rambling aside to get me to the whole conversation of comic books, okay? I just banged the table here. Every time I do that, you can see it's not an earthquake. It's not. It's just me banging the table. So let's talk about comic books for a second. Let's talk about collecting comic books, and let's talk about, you know, reading comic books. Now, I got a stack over here, and I put this on it to keep being the comic-eating cat from actually eating the comics while they're sitting on the desk. Now, today what we did was we shot a video where we reviewed 4 issues of a comic, okay? 4. Now, 4 issues of a comic, for those of you who don't know how I bag a board, it's about this thick. You'll notice this is 4 issues. What I did here is I went through my stack and I said, okay, well, I'll grab the lowest grade issue or lowest grade copy of cover A for each of these, and that's what I'll reread before I shoot this video. I did. And again, I loved rereading this story. I really enjoyed it the first time, so rereading it was just a lot of fun for me. Now you'd say, okay, this is typically what you should get. I will tell you, you are absolutely correct. If you're out there and you're buying comics and you're buying them to read and you're buying them to just enjoy the story with, this is all you should own. And I'm making that statement right now. Here's where they get you. Here's where they get you. I've just put those 4 issues on top of something. I'm going to bring it over here. Now, wait, hold on. Oh, gotta do it in such a way that there you go. Look at this. Do you see this? Are we getting a sense of scope here? Do you see that? Now, you might look at this and you would say, Tennessee Fats, what is this giant brick of wood you're holding up here? Well, I'd say this is probably about, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 pounds? I gotta call about 12 pounds. What is this 10 or 12 pounds of comics that you're holding up here? This must be the entire run. And then something else on top of that. Well, no. It's actually just my copies of issues 5, 6, 7, and 8. There's a reason why this is just my issues of copies 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it has to do with covers. And it has to do with art. And it has to do with variant covers. And I'll tell you, I've never really been a real... I've never really jumped into the variant cover thing before. I'll tell you, I know Marvel's been doing it for a donkey's age. DC's been doing it for donkey's age. There are current DC books that I've been reading lately, and all I've been doing is just picking, okay, well, that's a cool looking cover, tick, and then I just buy it and I bring it home. For the Conan ones, though, I've gone the extra step. I've gone the extra mile, and I've been buying all the extra covers. And they come out fairly infrequently, and some of them are really fantastic. I'll tell you, let's share some of the covers for you guys here. I'll say, I know when this one came out, a lot of people went all sorts of wacky on this one. They love this cover. Jay Lee, and I don't blame him. Jay Lee is a fantastic artist. I've been following him for a long time. I had the pleasure of actually re-meeting him. I met him once when I was a teenager at a con, and I had him sign some books. And I was at a con a couple years ago, and I re-met him, which was the most fascinating thing because there he was standing in front of me again. And I had to tell him, listen, dude, I met you. I don't want to talk about how long ago it was. But yeah, I met him years ago. So there are a lot of really cool covers. And I'll tell you, maybe you want to get some of these really cool covers. I tell you, one of the best ones that came out of this one, or some of the best ones that came out, oh, this is a good one right here. That's a beauty. Reason, again, being, as you guys know, I'm somewhat fixated with Bellet and that character. This I'm going to get somebody to do a sketch on. I'm quite excited about that. But as you can see, there's a lot of covers here that are just, and this one is a foil variant version. This was Local Comic Shop Day 2023, exclusive by Mike Diodato. Fancy foily thing. I put the cleared board on the back. Like, there are some great books in here, but my favorite cover of this entire run was this. Again, because it's, I think, Bellet just done beautifully by Dan Panosian. This is, wow. That one out of all of them was fantastic and really held me. But do I really need to own all these variant covers? No, I don't. And what I want to tell you guys, if you're out there and you're buying comics and you're saying to yourself, I should pay extra to buy these variants, if you think this is an investment, it's not. And I hate to say that, and I hate to be the down player here. I'm buying all these because stupid little OCD me won't let it go. It's a thing. I've got the ability to do it. I've got the wherewithal to do it, so I'm doing it. Eventually, what's going to happen is I'm going to have to cull my way through this. See how I said cull there? And Robert E. Howard. Never mind. I'm going to cull my way through this, and I will have a complete second set of issues number 1 through whatever it's going to be, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to sell that or gift it off to somebody because I just don't need this many copies, especially multiple copies. Nobody needs that. But I've never really bought into this whole idea of the variant covers, but I did for this. What I want to tell you guys is don't jump into this unless you're doing it for a reason other than investments. I know a lot of people buy these things, they specifically say, oh, well, this is the 1 in 50 variant of this, and I'm going to pay $50 for this brand new just so I can have it. Because you know what? This is going to be worth so much in the future. Well, I'll tell you guys, here's a trick on this, and here is a real trick. Don't. When you're buying the variants, here's what's going to happen. You'll pay the cover price up front, or whatever the marked up price is. And then what's going to happen is you're going to notice that that is going to decline. Public interest in that is going to decline. Social media cannot continue to show you every single variant of every single cover to drive up demand, to make you think you need to buy it, which then drives up the price. That will collapse down. If you wait and you look for variant covers after the fact, you will find the majority of them, and I mean the vast majority of them, will be selling at a discount within 1 to 2 years thereafter. Unless there's something particularly weird about it. Like, you've got, what's that guy? Miles Morales, his first appearance, there was a variant cover of that. That thing sells for so much more than the original, but that's because it's a Miles Morales thing. Now, I don't know if you can hear this, but one of my idiot neighbors who's apparently deaf just decided to pull in his pick-em-up truck where he listens to heavy metal music at maximum volume until he's been in the driveway for about 5 minutes, and then he turns it off. So eventually that will go away. And, as a guy who appreciates metal, I really can't give him grief. But you'll see those cover prices come down. They always will. And you're always going to see that. You're not going to win out on this. You can buy them after the fact if you really are convinced that's the one you have to have. And even if you have to pay a premium for it well after the fact, you're still going to win at the end of the day because you're not spending the $20, $30, $40 for them up front. Now, I will say that does not mean that I don't buy into these things frequently. I do gamble. I'm using the phrase gamble here loosely because I do. And I'll tell you, I did this twice, and I just opened it up today, actually, where I will buy mystery envelopes from certain Kickstarters because they will have some sort of variant cover within them. And I don't gamble. I don't buy lottery tickets. I don't go out to the casinos. I have terrible, terrible luck. I know that about me. And once you know that, you stop throwing money away on it. But with mystery envelopes, what I like about it is even if you don't get the cover you particularly thought, oh, that's fantastic, I'd love to get that, you still get some pretty cool stuff. Let me show you what I got on this one, because I'll tell you, this one came in from Coffin Comics. And I do spend money on this on the mystery envelopes, and I know it's costing more money than it normally would. And I will have a conversation about Kickstarter comics probably some other time. We'll chat about it and how I think they're phenomenally overpriced and not worth it. But these are kind of fun. Let me show you the first one I got here. I'm going to put it up over here. Now, this is Hell Witch. So there was a Kickstarter that was called Hell Witch, and I'm going to say a word here for you youngins. You might not want to be around for this. And if you're an old one and you got the youngins in the room, send them on out, okay? The Kickstarter was specifically called, hold on, pause it. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, I'm assuming you're ready because I can't do anything more for you. It's called Hell Witch Bitchcraft. And I'll tell you, I don't typically like to use these such words on the channel, so we typically don't. So we're not going to repeat that one again. I've said it once, that's enough, let's move on. But what's kind of cool about this is a Don McTeague black and white, and I think it's called, what is it called? The Pearl Linen, I'm looking down at it right now, the Pearl Linen Edition. It's limited to 50 copies. It's fun, okay? Do I think this is worth $50? Absolutely not. I am not convinced this is worth $50 at all. Because when you go and you look and you get yourself on the eBay or on the Kijiji or the Facebook Marketplace or whatever you're going to go on to look for comics, invariably you'll find most of these variants for these Kickstarter books. They're out there trading, if they're trading. Some are close to 10, 20 bucks. And you're not going to get the selection that you're always going to get at the issuance when it's a Kickstarter. But if you're looking to just buy a particular book and it's on a whim, then go for it. But this I find funny, and I enjoyed getting that one in the mystery envelope because you just never know. And I'll throw out the second one I got because I bought 2 mystery envelopes in this one, and I know it's $100, and I know, like, Tennessee Fats, you must be an idiot that you got money to burn. Well, I don't have money to burn, I really don't. But this is something that I choose to do probably once a year, just as a fun thing where I get it and I go, that was kind of cool. And that basically just scratches that gambling itch that all of us kind of have, and it goes away for another year. Here's the second one I got. This is kind of an interesting one. This is called the Leisure Edition. I don't know. It's another 1 in 50 variant. I don't know. Again, 1 in 50, yip-de-doo. Is it a cool cover? Yeah, it's a pretty cool cover. Would I have bought this on its own if I was out in a store? Probably not. It's a great cover and everything, but no, I probably would not have bought this. Would I have bought that black and white Don McTeague one? Yeah, probably. That's pretty cool. Would I pay $50 for it? No, I would not. But that's just because I have a sense of personal price point and what I would pay for a comic that's a variant. Especially a variant that really the populace is not diving in for and that it's not in heavy demand. There might be a point in time in the future where Lady Death and Hell Witch and the Brian Pulido universe, and he has built a beautiful universe over there, by the way. If any of you have read his stuff lately, congratulations. Any of you who haven't, go out there and read it. Like, honestly, there's obviously some trite stuff within it, but that happens in everything. But the actual story in the universe he's creating is really detailed and in-depth. Honestly, you're looking at something at level here, probably with the caliber of what you're seeing in the Spawn comics and the Todd McFarlane universe he's created around that. It's this whole world-building exercise that they've gone through, and they've built a wonderful story. But, again, the populace isn't really into it. It's not a huge thing where everybody, like a Marvel or a DC book, is buying it. It's not like Power Girl where everybody is going and ordering all 5 variants and getting the foil thing. That's not happening here. This is a smaller niche market, and they know it really well. So you can go out and buy these things. I get these in a Kickstarter, but honestly, what I'm telling you guys and what I would warn you ahead of time, because I want to be open and transparent with you guys so that you don't turn around and tell me I'm a hypocrite after the fact, is really make sure you're just buying the one you want when you're buying your comic collecting here, okay? Variant covers are fantastic. Don't think you have to have them all. If you think that a variant cover is going to be suddenly some sort of get-rich-quick scheme, it's not. It really isn't. And trust me, as a guy that's been in this hobby and has been buying for, okay, this is where I'm going to date myself now. 35 years, 36 years? Am I up to 40 years now? No, I'm not. I'm at 36 years, 36. So it's like, I've been in this for 36 years. I can tell you, I'm not rich yet. And I didn't get rich from any variant covers that I might have bought back when I was a teenager and I was thinking, oh, I got to get this variant, that variant, that variant. So just be cautious. Just be cautious and careful. See, I guess I just meshed those in the back of my head and made one word. I don't think I'll do that again. Anyways, be cautious when you're out there buying these things. Don't get hooked into this stuff because honestly, it is really an impulse buy itch. They're just trying to get you to scratch. There's my long man ramble for the, variant covers and comic collecting thing that I wanted to talk about today. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this one. I think the next time what we'll do on this, and I do have a box over there, and I've been dying to open it up. I think I might actually shoot a standalone video sometime midweek, because you guys know I typically put these things out on the weekends, just to open that up. And it'll be specific to Cananophiles. It will be specific to Cananophiles. And it does mean that actually after I open that, I got to go out and spend about maybe 300 or 400 bucks just to make use of it. Yeah, I made a boo-boo there. Oh. See you next video, everybody. Have a good one.